The next tip is what's going on, folks? Kendall here with Renos for Pros and Joes, and in this video I'm going to be discussing how to prevent dust during a renovation. So as you can see, I am back outside and it is raining, and it has been raining for the last 48 hours. However, it has slacked off for just a few moments, and I decided I would jump out here and try to shoot a quick video before it picks back up, because it's scheduled to rain for the next 48 hours. As you can see, my notes page is already damp and kind of given up on me. As you can see on my shirt here, I've already sustained some pretty big drips here from the trees around me. So let's go ahead and jump into it. I'm gonna run through 8 tips today for helping you to prevent dust on a renovation project. As a little inside tidbit, you really can't prevent dust, but what we can do is try to contain the dust as much as possible. I'm going to be giving 8 tips today, as I said, and I'm going to be showing a ton of different tools and supplies. Because it is raining, I'm gonna have to run back and forth to grab those tools and bring them out and show them to you and take them back. So just bear with me on that. But let's go ahead and get started with tip number 1. So the first tip is going to be remove all the contents from the immediate workspace. And for this example, we will use a bathroom. So let's say that you're going to do a partial bathroom upgrade where you're going to replace the toilet, you're going to replace the vanity, you're going to replace the faucet, you're going to replace the sink. It may be very tempting to only remove part of your contents of the space and leave everything else in place. You may want to leave your towel in there, or your toothbrush, or your mouthwash cup, etc., as well as some other personal effects around the tub and things like that. However, from a cleanliness standpoint, as well as a sanitary standpoint, it's a best practice to remove all of your personal effects from the bathroom. You're going to have people in there working, and it can get very dirty very quickly. They're going to have all types of tools and things in there they're going to be working with, and it's better not to have any of your personal items in there where they can come in contact with their hands or tools and things of that nature. Additionally, when you're preparing the space to begin work, it's also advisable to remove those things out of the space yourself for the reasons just given above. Sometimes homeowners may want to rely on the contractor to move their own personal effects, but just from a sanitary standpoint, it's probably in your best interest to move those things on your own. This is also true for the adjoining spaces. So if we're in a master bedroom where you have to actually pass through the bedroom to get into the bathroom, it's also going to be advisable to remove the contents from that space as well, because you can always create a lot of dust in the bathroom, and having that space right next to it can also create a dust trap. There are several tools that you can use to help make this a little bit easier for you. I always advise the use of a dolly if you've got things that will be easily moved with that. I like to use the dolly that has a strap on it where you can cinch the strap down. It makes it a lot easier to move things that are extremely heavy, and one person can move a whole lot of weight by themselves. In addition to a dolly, you also have some other things like furniture sliders. So if you've got carpet, you can use a tool like this. It is made with a cushion on the bottom. My cushion is worn out, but on the bottom side, it's plastic. It's very, very smooth. You can put these type of discs underneath each one of the feet or legs of the furniture, and it makes it very easy to slide across the room. This is if you've got carpet. You'd be surprised how easily you can move things that are very, very heavy across the room with just the use of these type of sliders. Anything from dressers to king size beds, etc., etc., etc. So keep these in mind. Also, all the tools that I'm going to show you in this video are going to be available in the links down below. On to the next tool. We discussed the furniture sliders. The next tool that you can use is a lift buddy. This is used to kind of scoop underneath the edge of heavy furniture and allows you to raise it up off the floor and move it more easily. And in some instances, this can be a tool that can help you just create a large enough gap underneath the bottom of a piece of furniture to be able to get your fingers underneath it so that it makes it easier for you to at least get it started as you lift it up and move it to its new location. Okay, on to the next tip, which is covering contents. So in every situation, it may not be practical to move all of the contents out of a space. We'll go back to our master bedroom and bathroom example. So every master bedroom is not going to be practical to empty out the contents. You may have a very heavy bed or a dresser or bookshelf or something like that in the space that is too heavy or too awkward for you to move by yourself or even with help. And in these situations, it makes more sense to cover these items. Ideally, if you can move them to one area of the room, that would be best, but in some situations, even that's not going to be possible, and you're just going to have to cover them in place. And when you are going to cover them, I always advise using some type of plastic. Let me show you what that looks like. Here's a roll of plastic right here. This is a big roll. This is a 0.31 mil plastic. They make it thinner than this. However, I advise against going super thin, because one of the things that you want this plastic to do is to drape over the things that you want to cover, and you don't want it to be able to be pulled and torn easily. If you get the thinnest plastic available, it's going to be a lot easier to tear, and you end up wasting a lot of time trying to go back and mend holes in it, because one thing that you don't want to do is have holes and tears in the plastic, because those create entry points for dust. Another added tip for working with plastic like this is that if it's possible, you can get a much better seal by laying down a piece of plastic on the floor area first, then putting the furniture or sliding the furniture on top of the plastic that's on the floor, and then draping a second piece of plastic over the top. And then as you drape that second piece of plastic over the top, you want to then seal the seam around the perimeter with tape. This is going to give you your most dust-proof situation. However, as I said before, in certain situations, it may not be practical to do that. And in those instances, it's just going to make more sense to just go ahead and tape around the base of it as tight as you can to try to make sure that you don't have any type of infiltration of dust. In some circumstances, you also may be able to just tape the plastic directly to the floor around the perimeter of your furniture. That way you can still have a dust-proof enclosure. On to the next tip. So on to the third tip for preventing dust during a renovation, which is covering floors. Now, I've made a video that extensively covers various different types of floor covering options. I will not go through all of them in this video, but I will link to that video in the description box below, but I will cover the high points here right now. So first of all, I want to talk about paper products. There's a wide range of paper products and there are different price points. I will say, however, that generally speaking, you're going to get what you pay for. So if you buy a very entry-level paper floor covering, it will not be anywhere nearly as durable as some of the middle to higher level price point items. I've got two examples of that today. For the sake of time, I will cover the high points now. Okay, so this is what I would consider to be one of your more entry level types of construction paper that you can use to cover the floor. As you can see here, it is got some weight to it, but it is not extremely heavy. So it can keep small debris from damaging the floor, but it is not going to be something that's going to be good to keep on the floor if you've got any type of moisture present, okay? This is going to be a less expensive option. Here is another paper option. Now, this type of paper is more thick and a lot more durable, and this costs a lot more. As you can see, it costs so much that I've actually used this roll and rolled it back up to use at a later time. So this paper does a very good job, and it can actually do a decent amount of prevention of water penetration if you've got it on the floor. However, you do want to check periodically if you're trying to use it in that type of scenario. One other thing about using paper products is that no matter what you're putting down on the floor, you always want to go back and check it periodically, because you always run the risk of having things slip underneath the edge of the paper. And the bad thing about that is if you're not going back through there and checking on it periodically, you could have substantial amounts of damage done to your floors without you even noticing it, because it's covered underneath the paper. So you want to periodically pull that paper or move that paper to the side so that you can see what's underneath it, clean it up, and then put it back. I also recommend vacuuming and sweeping that paper or your floor coverings on a regular basis to keep down dust. One more tip with regards to floor covering is dealing with carpet. So when working with carpet, you want to use something like this, which is a contact plastic. You simply roll this out, and it has an adhesive back to it, and you can roll it out and cover an entire floor. One thing about carpet is that it's very difficult to get dust out of it once it's in there, and a plastic like this can completely cover a floor and create a dust-proof barrier. So if you're going to be using this, let's go back to our master bathroom example. You're going to have a bedroom that's adjacent to it that has carpet on it, or even a hallway with carpet. You can run this down the entire hallway, or you can cover your entire floor in that bedroom with this carpet, and this will prevent dust and debris from getting on that floor. Makes it very easy to clean and maintain over the life of the project. When you're done, you simply pull it up and roll it up and ball it up in a big gooey ball. It's only gooey on one side, and then dispose of it, and you're done. Vacuum the floor and you're out of there. Look at my notes sheet. If you're enjoying this video so far, give this video a like. And if you enjoy content about real estate, renovation, remodeling, and repair, then subscribe to the channel because all of the videos are on the same topic. On to the next tip. Really picking up out here now. Look at my shirt. All right, on to our next tip, which is going to be sealing off doorways and penetrations. And so one way that you can easily transmit or move dust from one area to the next is through doorways. Doorways are notorious for allowing draft to move from one room to another, and you want to prevent that by using some type of tape. You can easily tape the gap between the door and the door jamb, and this will allow you to have quite a bit of dust protection. You can also tape down at the bottom of the door. There's typically a gap at the bottom to help seal that up. Another technique that you can use to keep out dust is going to be use something like this, which is a hand masker, and you can tape around the perimeter of the door jamb or the door casing, and you can use a thin plastic film like this to help seal it in, and you can also tape this down at the bottom as well. As I said before, links to all these tools will be in the description box below. So as an added tip, there's going to be situations where you need to seal off an area where there is not a doorway present. You may have an open space where you're only going to be working in half of a room, or you may have an open stairwell where you still need to prevent dust from moving into a larger area. And that is where we use our next tool, which is, wait for it. Here it is here. This is our zip wall tool. And this is essentially a set of poles, and each one of these poles has a foot on the bottom with rubber to keep from marking the floor, and it has a plate here on the top. And what you do is you use your large plastic roll, you cut off the amount of plastic that you need, and then you put these tent poles in place. Each one of these poles extends out and will go all the way up to the ceiling here. It's got two different extensions here, so you can get up really, really high if you need to. You put it under tension, but it still has a spring function in there to keep from damaging the surfaces. And this will suspend the plastic and keep it tight and taut. And then you can also tape around the perimeter there, particularly on the edges and on the sides, as well as the floor. This is gonna give you an awesome dust barrier if you're gonna be in a situation where you're in an open space and you still need to seal off from dust. Additionally, these type of systems also come with zippers. Say if you're gonna be working in a space where you need to actually pass through that sealed up space to get to the other side periodically, you can install a zipper that will allow you to close and open the space up to be able to get to the other side. And I may actually have one of those with me. Let's see if I do. So I actually do have one of those zippers here. I don't want to unwrap it all the way, but as you can see, it's adhesive on the back, and then it has a regular zipper on the front that will allow you to zip and open up your plastic to move from one side to the other. Okay, I'm really getting wet out here, but I'm gonna keep going because we're getting close to the end. So the next tip to prevent dust during a renovation is a vacuum. If you've seen my previous videos, you may have seen me use a shop vac. And I prefer to use a shop vac with a green filter, which is going to be the highest grade filter available for the type of shop vac that I use. I'll have a link to that in the description box below as well. But one of the things about shop vacs that are being made nowadays is that there are a lot of power tools that have been designed to be able to connect to these shop vacs so that you can collect the dust as it's created, as opposed to trying to collect it up off of the floor and out of the air after it's already been dropped. So it's another thing to consider. Also, if you want to see how the shop vac works with a green filter, I made a video previously where I vacuumed up about 25 pounds of fireplace soot directly out of a fireplace. I'm in a well-lit room, so you can see that very, very little dust actually escapes out into the room. As a matter of fact, it's so little that you can't even notice it with the naked eye. So I'll have a link to that video in the description box below. On to the next tip. Okay, on to the next tip, which is a dust control system. So this is one that you may not have seen before. And specifically what I'm talking about is an air scrubber and a negative air machine, which I've got right here, and I'll show it to you really quickly. So this is an air scrubber that can also be used as a negative air machine. So the way that these type of machines work is that they have very large, powerful fans inside of them, and they also have very, very dense, high-grade filters inside of them, HEPA filters. And so when you turn on a machine like this, it circulates and sucks in the air in the room, and it removes a lot of the contaminants from the air, okay? And so from an air scrubber standpoint, you just hook this up and sit it in the center of the room. okay? And that's essentially how it works. It pulls a lot of the contaminants out of the air. Now, if you're gonna use one of these as a negative air machine, not all air scrubbers are going to be able to be used as a negative air machine. So as to use it as a negative air machine, you have to be able to hook up a hose or a duct to the backside of this and vent it to the exterior of the space. So as you can see here, this is the front side where the air gets sucked in, and then it passes through and comes out this side if you've got a duct that's hooked up to it and you vent it out through the window. This actually creates a vacuum effect or a negative air situation, and that essentially prevents dust and contaminants from traveling easily to other areas in that space. So for going back to our bathroom example, if you're in a master bathroom, you've got a large scale renovation going on, you've got this hooked up in the bathroom, and this is going to help not only remove the dust from the air, but it's also going to help prevent the dust from escaping out of the bathroom and traveling into the bedroom, as well as other areas into the house. So a machine like this is a game changer. I will definitely have a link to this machine in the description box below. I will also have a link to the one that is more commonly found. More than likely, you're going to end up renting a machine like this unless you've got an ongoing project based mainly on the fact that it's a very expensive piece of machinery. And so you can rent it at almost any of your hardware tool rental departments, or even any of your standalone tool rentals. They're going to have a machine like this, and it will have the filter already inside of it. So on to the next tip. Next tip for preventing dust in a renovation is going to be to have a designated work area. Okay, and this is going to be true for inside and outside. When you have a renovation project going on, you're going to have all types of tasks going on potentially. You may have people cutting tile, installing drywall, sanding drywall, and prepping all types of different types of materials. Ideally, you want the majority of those prep work to be done on the exterior, away from doors and windows. And they can bring the material in when it's ready to be installed. This is ideally. In some situations, that may not work. However, you will also need to have a space where materials and supplies and tools can also be stored to keep them out of the elements and to keep them safe. And so if you designate a specific area for this, then you can keep folks from moving all over the place and creating a mess over here and working your windows and doors and kind of tracking things all over the place. So have a designated area, and that way you can help keep down dust and debris. Okay, on to the next tip, which is going to be to have a designated path to the work area. And this is going to be a crucial one if you're working on a project like a kitchen, where you may have more than one way to get to the work area. You may have a back door that you can get to the kitchen, and you may have a front door where you can walk through a living room or family room to get to the kitchen. There's no right or wrong path to choose. Ideally, you want to be as close to the exit as possible, but sometimes that's not practical. However, whichever path you choose, you want to make sure that you use that path and not use other ways to get in. And you can even use the barrier system that I showed you earlier with like something like a zip wall. That way you can completely partition off the space. There's only one way to get in and one way to get out. This helps to eliminate tracking in and through the property. It also helps minimize cleanup. Well, now that I am completely soaking wet and my glasses are all fogged up, hopefully you found this video informative. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you all in the next one. The next tip is waving the white flag.